So the other day, here I am on Reddit, on the internet, and I find this thread was actually pretty interesting, okay? And I see a situation between a girlfriend and a boyfriend, and they currently live together, and together they make around $100,000. And the big question is, okay, we live together, we're already in agreement, we love each other, everything seems to be great, and we're thinking about basically buying a condo that costs around $300,000. Do you guys think is actually a good idea? Now, if you're watching this video, you might just be watching because you're nosy, or you might just be watching it because you are in a situation like that and you're trying to decide, hey, is this a good idea or is it not a good idea? Now, I gotta be transparent, okay? I am a Christian, so I do believe certain things are reserved until marriage. And I do think the common sense beyond that is just that this is a terrible idea and it's not a smart one either. But in this video, beyond just giving you my opinion, I'm gonna go over the facts and why this is such a not so great idea to actually get into a binding agreement with someone you have no binding agreement with, okay? In this video, I'm gonna break everything down. As always, guys, like this video on top. I also subscribe and hit the bell to get notified. Now, the very first thing I gotta break down is basically intentions versus reality. Because you can have great intentions, but the reality can be something completely different. For example, I've never seen someone start a business with the intention of failing, start a dating relationship with the intention of breaking up, unless they're crazy, or get married with the intention of basically having a divorce. But usually all these things tend to happen. You have great intentions going into a business, but you didn't prepare, you didn't learn enough, and thus it failed. You went into this dating relationship with great intentions. I love this person, but in reality, you were just attracted to them and you weren't really thinking about long term, and probably that's why you broke up, okay? Or you get married with someone and you kind of don't go through a process of who is this person? What are their values? Are we together, for example, on the four main, which is basically kids, money, in-laws, and also, for example, religion? Do we have those 4 points? Are we in agreement over everything? And if the answer is no, then obviously you have a more likelihood of actually getting a divorce. My point is, whatever you go into with the intention, it doesn't really matter if the reality is this is going to be a massive problem. So if you say, for example, I'm going to enter a binding agreement with my girlfriend or my boyfriend to buy a condo together, or to buy a single family home, to buy a property, to buy something together, by co-sign something, the answer is it's not a good idea, because you're entering into a legal agreement with someone that in reality at any moment that relationship can end and you have a headache behind it. And to go even not even that far ahead of saying you're gonna go ahead and buy a house, you can just use the example of I've seen people that enter, for example, a dating relationship, girlfriend, boyfriend, they get into an apartment together, they break up, and now someone is stuck with this crazy rent they can't afford by themselves, and it's just like, wow, that's crazy. That's hurtful. So overall, I don't even recommend to get an apartment together. I don't even recommend to get a home together, because honestly, it makes no sense, okay? And the risk is very high. Now, does it work for some people? The answer is, just because some things have concluded in what seems to be a good thing doesn't mean is the correct process to actually go through it, okay? That's the idea. Now, number two, guys, this one is very simple. I don't want to get too negative here, but let's say, for example, this person passes away, okay, tragically or naturally, whatever happens. What happens is you entered into a binding agreement with someone and you guys are not into a binding agreement yourself, meaning you're not married. So thus, if this person passes away, something crazy happens, guess what? Now you own a home, not with him anymore, or it doesn't pass on to you, it passes on to whoever their heirs actually are. Usually their parents, their mom, their dad, their brothers or sisters. And now that's a whole different issue. You might not want to sell, you might want to keep, but it might just be a massive, massive headache. So whenever you find yourself in a situation where, and by the way, one thing I got from that thread on Reddit was that the girlfriend and the boyfriend, they were together, it seemed to be like everything was fine, but in reality, they had no intentions to actually to actually get married, to actually make this thing super superficial. They were not thinking about that whatsoever. So it's kind of like you want everything, but you also don't want commitment, okay? And that's where we enter number three, because number three is common sense. You cannot stand sturdy or firm when there is no solid foundation, because you always have that idea of it can happen. That person can leave. Things can change. But when you enter into a binding agreement, even if that does happen, there are legal things and implications that will happen if that does happen, okay? It's not to say like, oh, I have this contract, so it ensures everything goes fine. The answer is no. 50% of people get divorced, but also most of the people that get married, they don't actually do it, for example, with pre-marriage counseling and trying to do everything as best as they possibly can. It's just a fact, okay? A lot of marriages are just, for example, love marriages, like they say, for example, in America, and they don't go through an extensive process to make sure this person is actually the person you actually want to spend your life with, okay? Because commitment is massive when you think about it from a biblical standpoint of this is the person I'm going to marry, it's the person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. So obviously you got to do your homework. So overall, my opinion, my advice is this: if you find yourself in a situation where you're dating someone, you're getting to know them, don't enter into things that legally bind you with someone that you're not binded with as yet. You're not one yet. So be very careful with taking on this type of extremities, getting into, for example, car loans, apartments together, condos and properties and assets together, or just sharing bank accounts. Like if it is for the longevity, if it is forever, just wait until that process is basically done, and then when you get married, you kind of just do everything else. It's not like you're wasting money on, oh, I'm renting here and they're renting here, why not come together? No, like if you want to do that, get married. All right, that's the idea. That's my advice. That's my stand on it, and that's where I stand. Okay, and I think after that conversation, what I did see is that girl did start to see everything, because the advice on Reddit wasn't just, for example, like, you're stupid, this is common sense, what are you doing? It was more like trying to help that person understand, hey, this is risky. If this does not work out, you will end up in a massive potato. When it happens to that guy or to you, that would be a massive potato.
This is the world's largest potato.
So you got to be very careful with these things, and you got to just go through the process. Commitment is serious, and there are people that say, for example, oh, I don't want to enter into this government commitment thing because the government has nothing to do with my love for you and my appreciation for you. But more than often, those are just people that use those little tactics to not get into any binding agreements. But if that doesn't matter, then why do you want a deed? And why do you want to have a written will? And why do you want to make sure you have all the information for your bank account? Okay, because this is a society we basically live in, and this is the process we actually have to go through. Okay, so it's kind of like a poor excuse on my hand, or just from my point of view, the way I see it. But that is it, guys. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified. My point is just be patient, do things the right way to ensure the highest probability of success. That's my advice there. Thanks for watching. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, comment down below, made it, so I know you made it all the way to the end. Up here is another video. And by the way, I say this because in the past I have made mistakes, and I have learned from those mistakes, because before I became a Christian, all those things, I was doing a lot of stupid stuff, okay? Or I shouldn't say stupid stuff, but doing things that seem to be normal because of what people do, but they're very risky. They risk your heart, they risk money, they risk a lot of things, and it's not the way to actually go about things, okay? So after the fact, I've kind of just like learned those things and learned that there is a process to actually do things, so you don't get too heavily involved with something before it is like officially official, in a sense. All right, on top of that, up here is another banger. Here's my face, subscribe, and as always, long-term team officially out. Peace.